Admiral Kim Tae-woo stood in the secret command center buried deep beneath Earth's moon. For 30 years, this place had been humanity's best-kept secret. While politicians talked peace with the aliens, the Admiral and his team had been preparing for war. "Sir," Colonel Yoon Ji-hai reported as she entered the room, "all Ghost Protocol units are ready. We have teams positioned near every major Confederation facility." The Admiral nodded. Colonel Yoon was his best Special Forces officer. She had spent 5 years living among the crystal-like Vithari, learning their technology and finding their weaknesses. To the aliens, she had appeared to be just another human scientist. They had no idea she was actually a highly trained soldier. "What about the new weapons?" Admiral Kim asked. "Engineer Choi Min-ho has finished the modifications," Colonel Yoon replied. "Our ships now have hybrid systems that use alien technology against them. The aliens taught us how to use their weapons. They never thought we would improve them." Admiral Kim smiled. That was humanity's greatest strength. They could learn anything and make it better. "Show me the battle plans." Colonel Yoon activated a holographic display. It showed the entire Confederation space, with human forces marked in blue and alien forces in red. The aliens had thousands of ships, but they were spread out across hundreds of worlds. "The aliens expect us to fight like them," Colonel Yoon explained. "Big fleets attacking other big fleets, but we're going to fight like humans." "Small, fast, and smart," Admiral Kim said. "Exactly. While they're gathering their main fleets, we'll hit their communication centers and supply lines. Without communications, their big fleets are just floating in space." The Admiral studied the plan. It was risky, but it could work. "What about Captain Lee?" "He's already begun," Colonel Yoon said. "The Iron Mountain just destroyed a Vithari listening post in the Vega system. The aliens think it was an accident." Admiral Kim laughed. "Let them think that. How long before they realize we're at war?" "Dr. Park Soo-jin estimates 2 days. By then we'll have hit 20 more targets." On the other side of the galaxy, Dr. Park Soo-jin was having a very different kind of meeting. She sat across from Kethra, a member of the Kethran species. The Kethrans looked like tall, thin humans with blue skin and 4 arms. They had been part of the Confederation for 800 years, but they were not happy about it. "Dr. Park," Kethra said in his musical voice, "my people have waited centuries for someone to challenge the 3 powers. Are humans truly ready for this fight?" "We are," Dr. Park replied. "But we need allies. We need species who know the galaxy better than we do." Kethra leaned forward. "What do you offer in return?" "Freedom," Dr. Park said simply. "When this war is over, no species will control any other. Every world will choose its own path." The Kethran was quiet for a long moment. "The 3 powers have weapons you cannot imagine. They have ships older than your entire civilization. And we have something they don't," Dr. Park said. "We have the will to fight for what's right." Kethra made a sound like singing wind. It was how Kethrans showed approval. "My people will help you. We know where the 3 powers keep their secret bases. We know which species might join your cause." Dr. Park felt relief flood through her. Humanity would not fight alone. Back in space, Captain Lee Dae-ho was learning just how well humanity's secret preparations had worked. His ship's new weapons had easily destroyed the Vithari listening post. The crystal being's technology was powerful, but it was predictable. Humans had studied it for 30 years and found ways to turn it against its creators. "Captain," Lieutenant Kim Hana reported, "we're receiving a transmission from the Vithari home fleet. They're demanding to know why we destroyed their station." "Tell them it was a training accident," Lee said calmly. "Our weapons malfunctioned." "Sir, they won't believe that." "It doesn't matter what they believe," Lee said. "It matters what they can prove. By the time they figure out the truth, it will be too late." The Iron Mountain was already moving to its next target. In the Centauri system, there was a Malusian supply depot. It provided food and equipment to a dozen alien worlds. If it were destroyed, those worlds would be cut off from their support network. "Jump complete," the navigation officer reported. "Centauri system in sight." Lee looked at the tactical display. The supply depot was huge, built into an asteroid. It was protected by 6 Malusian warships. Under normal circumstances, one human ship attacking 6 alien ships would be suicide. But these were not normal circumstances. All hands to battle stations, Lee ordered. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every species the Confederation has enslaved. The battle was over in 10 minutes. The hybrid, human-alien weapons cut through the Malusian ships like they were made of paper. The aliens had never faced weapons that combined human innovation with their own technology. They didn't know how to defend against their own tools being used better than they could use them. As the supply depot exploded, Lee felt no satisfaction. War was never something to celebrate, but sometimes it was necessary. The 3 powers had ruled the galaxy through fear and oppression for too long. It was time for that to end. Engineer Choi Min-ho watched the battle from his laboratory on Earth's moon. The 25-year-old had been working on alien technology since he was a teenager. While other young people his age were playing games or dating, Choi had been learning how to build weapons that could save humanity. The new plasma cannons worked perfectly, he reported to Admiral Kim. The Malusians' shields couldn't adapt fast enough to stop them. What about the Etherian energy weapons? The Admiral asked. Still working on those, Choi admitted. Energy beings are harder to understand than crystal or water-based life forms, but I think I'm close to a breakthrough. Admiral Kim patted the young man on the shoulder. Keep working. We're going to need every advantage we can get. Across the galaxy, the 3 powers were beginning to realize that something was very wrong. Communication with 12 facilities had been lost in the past day. At first, they thought it was equipment failures or natural disasters, but the pattern was too clear to ignore. Christek, the Vithari leader, called an emergency meeting of the Galactic Council. The humans are attacking our installations, he announced. Impossible, Aquan bubbled. They only have a few dozen ships. We have thousands. Then explain how they destroyed a supply depot protected by 6 warships, Christek replied, his crystal form glowing with anger. Etherian Prime flickered as he processed this information. Perhaps we underestimated them. It doesn't matter, Aquan said. We'll mobilize our main fleets. Even if the humans fight, they cannot win against our combined strength. But deep in space, Captain Lee Dae-ho was reading a new set of orders from Admiral Kim. The real war was about to begin, and humanity had one more surprise for their enemies. The 3 powers thought they were fighting a small rebellion. They had no idea they were facing the entire human species, backed by secret allies and weapons that combined the best of every civilization in the galaxy. The aliens had made one fatal mistake. They had given humans 30 years to prepare, and when humans had time to prepare, they didn't just survive. They won. Captain Lee Dae-ho stood on the bridge of his ship looking out at the stars. The Iron Mountain was a human warship, one of the newest in Earth's small fleet. Lee had been patrolling the outer edge of human space for 3 months now. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. Captain, his communications officer called out, we're getting a message from the Galactic Council. They want to talk to you right away. Lee frowned. The Galactic Council never contacted ship captains directly. They always went through Earth's government first. Put it through, he said. The main screen lit up with the image of 3 alien beings. Lee recognized them immediately. There was Christek, the leader of the crystal-like Vithari. Next to him was Aquan, who spoke for the water-dwelling Malusians. The third was Etherian Prime, a being made of pure energy who represented his kind. Captain Lee Dae-ho, Christek spoke in perfect human language. We have an important message for your species. I'm listening, Lee said, keeping his voice steady. Humanity has been part of our confederation for 30 years now, Aquan said, his voice bubbling like water. In that time, your people have caused many problems. Lee's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Etherian Prime's form flickered as he spoke. Humans are too violent, too unpredictable, too dangerous for civilized space. What are you saying? Lee asked. We are giving humanity a choice, Christek announced. You will give up all your weapons and warships. You will let us change your genes to make you less violent. You will become our servants. Do this and you can stay in Confederation space. And if we refuse? Lee asked, though he already knew the answer. Then you leave. Aquan said simply. All humans will be banned from Confederation space forever. Any human ship we find will be destroyed. Lee felt his blood boil. How long do we have to decide? 7 days, Etherian Prime said. That should be enough time for your leaders to see reason. The transmission ended, leaving Lee staring at a blank screen. Around him, his crew was silent. They had all heard everything. Sir, his first officer, Lieutenant Kim Hana, said quietly. What do we do? Before Lee could answer, another transmission came in. This one was from Dr. Park Soo-jin on the research station New Harmony. She looked worried. Captain Lee, did you get the Council's message? She asked. I did, Lee replied. What's your opinion, Doctor? Dr. Park had been studying aliens for 15 years. If anyone understood them, it was her. This isn't really about our violence, she said. I've been watching the data. In 30 years, humans have advanced faster than any species in Confederation history. We've learned their technology and improved it. They're scared of us. Scared of us? Lee asked. There are billions of them and only a few million humans in space. That's exactly why they're scared, Dr. Park explained. Look at what we've done in just 30 years. We went from barely leaving our solar system to having colonies across dozens of worlds. We've created new technologies they never thought of. They took thousands of years to reach where they are now. We did it in 3 decades. Lee understood. The aliens weren't trying to control humanity because humans were violent. They were trying to control humanity because humans were dangerous to their power. There's something else, Dr. Park continued. I've been talking to some of the other species in the Confederation. The ones who aren't in charge, they're not happy with how things work. What do you mean? The 3 main species control everything. The smaller species have to do what they say. They can't make their own choices. Some of them have been waiting for someone strong enough to stand up to the big 3. Lee nodded slowly. This was bigger than just humanity's future. Doctor, I need you to keep researching. Find out everything you can about our allies and their enemies. Already on it, Captain. The transmission ended, and Lee turned to his crew. Listen up, everyone. We all heard what the Council said. I don't know about you, but I didn't come out here to bow down to anyone. His crew nodded in agreement. These were good people, humans who had left Earth to explore the stars. They hadn't come this far to give up their freedom. Sir, Lieutenant Kim said, Earth Command is sending new orders. They want all ships to return to Earth immediately. Lee wasn't surprised. The politicians back home were probably already talking about accepting the aliens' demands. They would think it was better to survive as servants than to die as free people. Lee disagreed. Send a message to Earth Command, Lee ordered. Tell them the Iron Mountain will continue patrolling as ordered. Sir, they won't like that, Lieutenant Kim warned. I don't care what they like, Lee said firmly. 2 hours later, Lee's personal communicator beeped. It was a private message, encrypted with military codes. The message was from Admiral Kim Tae-woo, the highest-ranking human in the Confederation fleet. Captain Lee, the message began. I know you received the Council's ultimatum. I also know you're thinking about fighting. Good. We've been preparing for this day since we first joined the Confederation. Lee's eyes widened. Preparing for this day? The message continued. Operation Ghost Protocol is now active. Check your ship's sealed orders, the ones marked for emergency use only. It's time the galaxy learned what humans are really capable of. Lee rushed to his private quarters and opened the emergency safe. Inside was a data pad he had never been allowed to read. As he activated it, files began downloading to his ship's computers. What he saw made him smile for the first time since receiving the ultimatum. For 30 years, while humanity had appeared weak and cooperative, their best minds had been studying every alien species. They knew their weaknesses. They knew their fears. They knew exactly how to fight them, but more than that, they knew how to win. Lee returned to the bridge with new confidence. Lieutenant Kim, Set course for the Vega system, maximum speed. Sir, that's deep in Confederation space. I know, Lee said. It's time to send the Council a message they'll never forget. As the Iron Mountain jumped to hyperspace, Lee thought about the choice the aliens had given humanity. They could surrender their freedom or face destruction. The aliens had forgotten to consider a third option. Humans could fight back. And when humans fought for their freedom, they didn't just fight to survive. They fought to win. The galaxy was about to learn why challenging humans was the last mistake anyone would ever make. Captain Oh Hyunwoo had been waiting in the shadow of a dead moon for 3 days. His ship, the Silent Thunder, was completely invisible to alien sensors. Human engineers had created stealth technology that even the advanced Confederation couldn't detect. Captain, his weapons officer whispered, the Vithari fleet is approaching. Oh smiled grimly. 20 massive crystal ships were heading toward the human colony of New Sol. The aliens thought they would find a helpless world with weak defenses. They were about to learn how wrong they were. All ships, this is Silent Thunder. Oh spoke into his communicator. Ghost Squadron is in position. Begin the dance. Around the Vithari fleet, 30 human ships suddenly appeared. They had been hiding in asteroid fields, behind moons, and in the shadows of space stations. The aliens never saw them coming. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of facing the alien ships head-on, the human fleet moved like dancers. They appeared, fired, and vanished before the aliens could react. Each human ship struck a different target, then disappeared again. The Vithari commander, Crystal Lord Vex, watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart by enemies he couldn't catch. How are they moving so fast? He demanded, his science officer's crystal form dimmed with confusion. They're using our own technology, Lord, but they've changed it somehow, made it better. Within an hour, 15 of the 20 Vithari ships were destroyed or disabled. The remaining 5 fled back to their home space, carrying news that would shock the Galactic Council. On the planet New Sol below, Ambassador Kang So-young was meeting with representatives from 6 different alien species. These were not the powerful races that ruled the Confederation. These were the smaller species that had been forced to obey the 3 powers for centuries. The humans have proven they can fight, said Vrex Queen Tic-Tac, leader of the insect-like Vrex. But can they win a real war? We don't just plan to win, Ambassador Kang replied. We plan to free every oppressed species in the galaxy. The representatives looked at each other with hope in their alien eyes. Some of them had never known freedom. Their species had been conquered before they were even born. What do you need from us? Asked Grove Speaker Elm, who represented the plant-like Silvani. Information, Ambassador Kang said. We need to know where the 3 powers keep their secret weapons. We need to know which worlds might join our cause. Most importantly, we need to know how to reach the species that have been enslaved for so long they've forgotten what freedom looks like. The meeting lasted for hours. By the end, the human ambassador had learned about hidden slave worlds, secret prison planets, and ancient weapons that the 3 powers kept locked away for emergencies. But she also learned something more valuable. She learned that across the galaxy, billions of beings were waiting for someone to give them hope. Back on Earth's moon, Admiral Kim Tae-woo was studying reports from across human space. In just 1 week, his forces had won 12 major victories against alien fleets, but he knew this was only the beginning. Colonel Yoon, he called to his Special Forces commander. What's our intelligence on the ancient weapons? Colonel Yoon Ji-hai activated a holographic display. It showed a massive structure hidden in the center of the galaxy. It's called the World Render, she said. The 3 powers built it over 1,000 years ago. It can destroy entire planets. Admiral Kim felt cold fear in his chest. How many planets can it destroy? All of them, Colonel Yoon said quietly. If they activate it near a star, the star explodes. Every world in that solar system dies. And they're planning to use it. Our spies confirm it. They're moving the weapon toward Earth's solar system. If they can't defeat us in battle, they'll simply destroy our home world. Admiral Kim was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. Good, Colonel. Yoon looked surprised. Sir? They're scared enough to use their ultimate weapon, the Admiral explained. That means they know they're losing. Scared enemies make mistakes. The Admiral was right. Across Confederation space, panic was spreading among the three ruling species. They had never faced an enemy like humanity. Their massive fleets were being destroyed by small human forces that struck like lightning and vanished like ghosts. Kristek paced in his crystal palace on the Vithari homeworld. His advisors surrounded him, all of them glowing with anxiety. The humans have destroyed 40% of our outer fleet, one advisor reported. Our colonies are cut off from supplies and reinforcement. How is this possible? Kristek demanded. We have weapons that destroyed civilizations before humans even learned to use fire. The humans learn faster than any species we've encountered, another advisor said. They study our technology and improve it within days. What takes us centuries to develop, they master in weeks. On the water world of Aquonia, Aquan was having similar problems. The Malusian leader floated in his command chamber, surrounded by bubbling water and bad news. The human ships move like fish through water, his military commander reported. They strike our weak points perfectly, as if they know our ships better than we do. Because they do, Aquan said bitterly. We welcomed them into the Confederation. We shared our knowledge with them. We taught them everything about our technology, our tactics, our weaknesses. They've been preparing for this war since the day they joined us. In the energy realm where the Etherians lived, Etherian Prime was reaching the same conclusion. The humans hadn't just been good students. They had been planning this rebellion for 30 years, learning everything they could about their future enemies. We gave them 3 decades to prepare, Etherian Prime told his council. Now they're using our own knowledge to destroy us. Then we must use the world render, one council member said. End this war before they can do more damage. But using the ultimate weapon came with risks. The world render had been built in secret, hidden from the smaller Confederation species. If they used it now, every species in the galaxy would know that the 3 powers had been keeping a planet-killing weapon as their final solution to any rebellion. Meanwhile, Dr. Park Soo-jin was working with her new alien allies to spread the word about the weapon. Using secret communication networks that the oppressed species had built over centuries, she sent a message to every world in the galaxy. The 3 powers have a weapon that can destroy planets, her message said. They built it in secret and kept it hidden from you. They're planning to use it against Earth, but what's to stop them from using it against any world that disobeys them? The message caused exactly the reaction Dr. Park had hoped for. Across the galaxy, species that had been neutral in the human-alien war suddenly realized that their own survival was at stake. If the 3 powers would destroy Earth for rebelling, they would destroy any world that didn't obey completely. Within days, 12 more species declared their support for the human resistance. They might not have strong military forces, but they had something equally valuable: knowledge of the galaxy and the will to be free. Captain Lee Dae-ho received the news while his ship was refueling at a hidden human base. Sir, Lieutenant Kim Hana reported, Admiral Kim wants to speak with you privately. The Admiral's image appeared on Lee's personal communicator. Captain, we've located the world render. It's heading for our solar system, but it will take them 2 weeks to get there. Orders, sir? Take your ship and find that weapon, Admiral Kim said. Study it. Learn its weaknesses. We may only get one chance to stop it. Lee nodded. Understood. What about support? You'll have help, the Admiral promised. Colonel Yoon is assembling a special team. But Lee, this is the most important mission in human history. If that weapon reaches Earth, it won't, Lee said firmly. I'll make sure of it. As the Iron Mountain jumped into hyperspace, heading toward the galaxy's center, Lee thought about how much had changed in just 2 weeks. The aliens had thought they were dealing with a small rebellion. Instead, they had awakened something they didn't understand. They had challenged humanity's right to exist. Now they were learning why that had been the biggest mistake in galactic History. The war was far from over, but across the galaxy, the oppressed were rising. Freedom was spreading from world to world, carried by human ships and alien allies who had waited centuries for this moment. The three powers had ruled through fear for too long. Now they were the ones who were afraid. Major Han Sung-woo floated in the darkness of space, watching the massive alien weapon through his helmet's display. The world render was bigger than most space stations, covered in crystal formations and energy conduits that pulsed with deadly power. Target confirmed, he whispered into his communicator. The weapon is exactly where our intelligence said it would be. Behind him, 30 soldiers from different species waited in their own spacesuits. There were humans, Kethrans with their forearms insect-like Vrex warriors, and even 2 plant-based Sylvani who had modified themselves for combat. It was the most diverse military unit in galactic history. Remember the plan, Major Han said. We have one shot at this. If we fail, Earth dies in 6 hours. Dr. Lim Yoon-ji had spent 3 days studying the alien weapon's design. The young physicist had barely slept, surviving on coffee and determination. Now she understood exactly how the world render worked, and she knew how to turn it against its creators. The weapon draws power from the 3 home worlds, she had explained to Admiral Kim. It's connected through subspace to the Vathari crystal world, the Malusian water world, and the Etherian energy realm. When it fires at a target, it sends feedback through those connections. Can we redirect that feedback? The Admiral had asked. Yes, but someone has to stay inside the weapon to manually control the redirection. The person who does it won't survive. Now, as Major Han led his team toward the weapon, he carried Dr. Lim's modifications with him. The young scientist had found a way to reverse the weapon's power flow, but it required someone to sacrifice themselves to make it work. Major, his second-in-command, Sergeant Keth Vor of the Kethrans, spoke over the radio. Enemy patrol ships approaching. Han looked toward Earth, where the human fleet was making its final stand. Every human ship in the galaxy was there, fighting against the combined fleets of the 3 powers. Explosions lit up the darkness like deadly fireworks. We go in now, Han decided, while they're distracted by the main battle. The infiltration team used human stealth technology to slip past the weapon's defenses. The aliens had never imagined that anyone would be crazy enough to board their ultimate weapon during a battle. Inside the world render, the team split up. Each group had a specific target: the weapon's power systems, its targeting computers, and its main control room. Major Han headed for the control room with the most dangerous part of the mission. In space around Earth, Captain Lee Dae-ho was fighting the battle of his life. The Iron Mountain had taken heavy damage, but it was still fighting. Around him, human ships were falling one by one against the overwhelming alien forces. Captain, Lieutenant Kim Hana called out, the world render is powering up. They're going to fire at Earth in 10 minutes. Lee gritted his teeth. The human fleet had held out for 3 hours, but it wasn't enough. Unless Major Han's mission succeeded, humanity's homeworld would be destroyed. All ships, Lee broadcast on the fleet frequency, give everything you have. Our families are counting on us. The human ships responded with desperate fury. They rammed alien vessels, used their own ships as weapons, and fought with the courage that only comes from defending one's home. But there were simply too many enemies. Inside the world render, Major Han reached the control room. It was a vast chamber filled with alien technology from 3 different civilizations. Crystal formations pulsed with Vathari power, water-filled tubes carried Malusian energy, and streams of pure force showed the Etherian contribution. In position, he reported to his team. Beginning the modification process. Working with practiced efficiency, Han began installing Dr. Lim's equipment. The modifications would redirect the weapon's power back through the subspace connections to the 3 home worlds. Instead of destroying Earth, the world render would destroy the planets of its creators. Major, Sergeant Keth Vor's voice crackled. Over the radio. We're under attack. Alien security forces found us. Hold them off, Han ordered. I need 5 more minutes. But he didn't have 5 minutes. Alien soldiers were already breaking into the control room. Crystal warriors, water-suited Malusians and energy beings flowed through the entrances. Han drew his weapon and fired, but there were too many of them. As alien energy beams struck around him, he made the hardest decision of his life. "All teams, fall back," he ordered. "I'll finish the mission alone." "Sir, you can't," Sergeant Kethfor began. "That's an order," Han shouted. "Get out of here and tell them what we did." As his team reluctantly retreated, Han continued working on the modifications. Alien weapons fire filled the air around him, but somehow he wasn't hit. Maybe he was lucky, or maybe the universe wanted him to complete his mission. "Modification complete," he reported to Admiral Kim. "Ready to redirect the weapon's power." "Han," the Admiral's voice was heavy with sadness. "You know what this means." "I know, sir." "Tell my family I died for something important. You're saving the entire galaxy, Major. No one will ever forget what you did today." Han activated Dr. Lim's equipment just as the world render fired, but instead of sending its devastating beam toward Earth, the weapon's power flowed backward through its subspace connections. On the Vithari crystal world, the entire planet began to crack and shatter. The feedback from their own weapon was too much for their crystalline structure to handle. On Aquonia, the Malusian homeworld, the oceans began to boil as energy overloaded their water-based systems. In the energy realm of the Etherians, their pure force existence was disrupted by the chaotic power returning through their own connection. Major Han watched the readings on his equipment as the 3 homeworlds died. He felt no joy in it, only sadness for all the lives lost. But he also felt satisfaction. The 3 powers had built this weapon to terrorize the galaxy. Now it had destroyed them instead. The alien security forces in the control room stopped firing. They stared at their instruments in horror as they realized what had happened. "Your homeworlds are gone," Han told them quietly. "The war is over." In space around Earth, the alien fleet suddenly stopped fighting. Ship after ship went silent as their crews learned that their civilizations had just been destroyed. Some ships continued to fight out of rage or desperation, but most simply shut down their weapons and waited. Captain Lee Dae-ho couldn't believe what he was seeing. "All ships, cease fire," he ordered. "The aliens are surrendering." It took several minutes for the full truth to reach everyone. The world render, the weapon that was supposed to end human resistance, had instead ended the 3 powers that created it. Dr. Park Soo-jin, watching from the New Harmony station, felt tears on her cheeks. The cost of victory had been enormous. Billions had died on the 3 homeworlds, and heroes like Major Han had sacrificed themselves for freedom. But across the galaxy, oppressed species were celebrating. The news spread from world to world. The 3 powers were gone, their fleets were defeated, and the age of galactic freedom had begun. Admiral Kim Tae-woo stood in his command center, looking at reports from across human space. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. Humanity now had to help build a new galactic order based on freedom and equality instead of fear and oppression. "Sir," Colonel Yoon Ji-hai reported, "we're receiving surrender messages from alien commanders across the galaxy. Most of them want to negotiate peace terms." "Good," the Admiral said. "Send word to all human forces. Treat the defeated aliens with respect. They're not our enemies anymore. They're going to be our neighbors in the new galaxy." As Earth's sun rose over the battlefield, illuminating the wreckage of the greatest space battle in history, humanity began to understand what they had accomplished. They had not just won a war, they had freed an entire galaxy from thousands of years of tyrannical rule. But victory had come at a terrible price. Heroes had died, worlds had been destroyed, and the galaxy would never be the same. The question now was whether the survivors could build something better from the ashes of the old order. Major Han Sung-woo had given his life to answer that question. Now it was up to the living to make sure his sacrifice meant something. 6 months after the war ended, President Seo Jin-woo stood before the largest gathering in galactic history. Representatives from over 200 species had come to Earth to sign the Terran Accords, the document that would create the Free Galactic Alliance. "Today," President Seo said to the assembled delegates, "we choose a different path. Not the path of conquest or control, but the path of cooperation and freedom. In the audience, Dr. Park Soo-jin watched with pride as former enemies sat next to former slaves, all working together to build something new. The Vithari, Malusians, and Etherians were represented too. Not by their old leaders, who had died, with their home worlds, but by survivors who wanted peace. The three powers ruled through fear, President Seo continued. They kept weapons like the World Render to threaten anyone who disobeyed. Today we destroy the last of those weapons and promise that no one will ever build such things again. Outside Earth's atmosphere, General Park Dong-hyun watched as the remaining parts of the World Render were broken apart and recycled into materials for building hospitals and schools. The weapon that had almost destroyed Earth was now going to help heal the galaxy. General, his aide reported, the Kethrin delegation wants to discuss setting up the new peacekeeping force. General Park nodded. The Free Galactic Alliance would need military forces, but they would be different from the old Confederation fleets. Instead of conquering and controlling, they would protect and serve. Colonel Yoon Ji-hee had been chosen to lead this new force. Her experience fighting both with and against alien technology made her the perfect choice. More importantly, her time among different species had taught her to see aliens as people, not enemies. The galaxy is full of dangers, Colonel Yoon explained to the new recruits. Pirates, natural disasters, and species that haven't learned about cooperation yet. Our job is to help, not to rule. The new peacekeeping force included soldiers from dozens of different species. Humans worked alongside Vrex warriors, Kethrin scouts, and even reformed Vithari crystal guards. They were proof that former enemies could become allies when they shared common goals. Engineer Choi Min-ho had a different job in the new galaxy. Instead of building weapons, he was now creating technology to help rebuild worlds damaged by centuries of oppression. His latest project was a terraforming system that could restore planets to their natural state. The Sylvani homeworld was strip-mined by the Malusians for 300 years, he explained to his team. We're going to bring back their forests. It was slow work, but it was important work. Across the galaxy, worlds that had been exploited were being healed. Species that had been enslaved were learning to govern themselves again. On the former Vithari crystal world, now called New Hope, survivors worked with human engineers to rebuild their civilization. The planet's crystal structure had been shattered by the World Render's feedback, but they were growing new crystals in patterns of beauty rather than war. Christek Minor, one of the few Vithari leaders who had survived, met with human diplomats regularly. My people made a terrible mistake, he admitted. We thought strength meant controlling others. Now we're learning that true strength comes from helping others. The Malusians were having similar conversations on their colony worlds. Aquan II, speaking for the water dwellers, had publicly apologized for his people's role in galactic oppression. We told ourselves we were bringing order to chaos, he bubbled sadly. But we were just afraid of change. The humans taught us that change can be good if you're brave enough to face it. Even the energy-based Etherians scattered across dozens of dimensions after their realm was disrupted were working to make amends. Etherian Nu spoke for his people at the Alliance meetings. We existed above physical matter and thought that made us superior, he flickered. But the humans showed us that wisdom comes from understanding all forms of life, not from thinking you're better than them. Dr. Park Soo-jin had become the first director of interspecies sciences in the new alliance. Her job was to help different species understand each other and work together. It was challenging work, but also rewarding. Every species has something unique to offer, she told her students at the new galactic university. Humans are good at adapting and innovating. Kethrins are excellent at long-term planning. Vrex understand group coordination better than anyone. When we combine our strengths, we can accomplish anything. The university itself was a symbol of the new galaxy. Built on a neutral world between former enemy territories, it welcomed students from every known species. Former soldiers studied alongside former slaves, learning to see each other as fellow beings instead of threats or tools. Admiral Kim Tae-woo had retired from military service. But he wasn't idle. He was writing the official history of the Liberation War, making sure that future generations would understand both its necessity and its cost. War should always be the last choice, he wrote. but sometimes it's the only choice that leads to freedom. The memorial to Major Han Sung-woo stood in the center of the university campus. It was simple but powerful, a statue of the hero activating the controls that had saved the galaxy, with words in every known language saying, "He gave his life so others could be free." Students from dozens of species left flowers, crystals, energy patterns, and other gifts at the memorial. Han had become a symbol of sacrifice for the common good, inspiring beings across the galaxy to put others before themselves. Captain Lee Dae-ho now commanded the exploration fleet, leading mixed crews on missions to discover new worlds and new species. His ship, still called the Iron Mountain, was a symbol of how the galaxy had changed. Its crew included beings from 20 different species, all working together. "Captain," Lieutenant Kim Hana reported during their latest mission, "we're receiving a signal from an unknown species. They're asking if we come in peace." Lee smiled. That question had become common as news of the Free Galactic Alliance spread beyond explored space. "Tell them yes," he said, "and invite them to learn about freedom." The new species, called the Melodians because they communicated through music, joined the Alliance within a year. They brought their own gifts, the ability to use sound waves for healing and their knowledge of harmony in all things. As the Alliance grew, it faced new challenges. Some species were reluctant to give up their old ways. Pirates and criminals tried to take advantage of the changing times. Natural disasters and cosmic events still threatened worlds across the galaxy. But for every challenge, the Alliance found solutions through cooperation. When the crystal beings of Xerion faced extinction from a dying star, Etherian energy manipulation and human engineering saved their entire civilization. When a plague threatened the plant worlds of the Outer Rim, Vrek's hive mind coordination and Malusian water purification techniques found a cure. The galaxy was learning that diversity was strength, not weakness. President Seo Jin-woo stood once again before the Galactic Assembly, but this time it was the 5th anniversary of the Terran Accords. The gathering was even larger now, with over 400 species represented. "5 years ago, we chose freedom over fear," he said. "Today, we celebrate not just our survival, but our growth. We've explored new worlds, made new friends, and built something that would have been impossible under the old system." In the audience, the survivors of the war listened with mixed emotions. They had won, but at great cost. Billions had died, heroes had been lost, and entire civilizations had been changed forever. But they had also accomplished something unprecedented in galactic history. They had broken the cycle of oppression that had lasted for millennia. They had proven that different species could work together as equals. They had shown that strength came from lifting others up, not holding them down. Dr. Park Soo-jin read the closing words of the ceremony, taken from the final entry in Captain Lee Dae-ho's personal log from the war. "We didn't fight to prove humans were superior. We fought to prove that freedom belongs to everyone." As the delegates returned to their home worlds, they carried with them the promise of the Free Galactic Alliance, that no species would ever again rule over another through fear, that every being had the right to choose their own path, and that the galaxy was big enough for everyone to find their place in it. The war was over. The age of galactic tyranny had ended. The age of freedom had begun, and across the galaxy, on millions of worlds, beings looked up at the stars and knew that they were truly free. The humans had challenged the old order and won, but more importantly, they had shown everyone else how to be free as well. Those who had challenged humans had indeed perished. But in their place, something better had been born. A galaxy where every species could reach for the stars together.